How's it going? David from Comic Book Investments. So in this video, we're going to look at 5 keys that are dropping in price, and quite a bit dropping. But before I get into the video, if you're ever on eBay, just looking around, looking to stock up on some new toilet paper, or maybe you want to read a comic book. If you use my link, it's an affiliate link that's in every video I have. We'll say like eBay link or something like that. It gives me a little kickback, helps out this channel. I then use some of that money to put better books in the giveaway that we do probably every quarter-ish. So if you're just buying anything, costs you nothing. It just gives me it's like a tiny fraction of a percent. Helps me out. So if you'd like to do that, great. Awesome. On to the video. All right, first up is we got Black Panther #1. In a 9.8, one just recently sold for $530. In January, that same book averaged about $798. That is down 34%. And in all 2023, that book was averaging $735. That's down 28%. And then it peaked, this is ridiculous, but it peaked at $4,191. That's down 87%. I can't believe this book peaked that. Like that, when I saw that number, I was like, that's ridiculous. And then if you look at the next sale from that 41, you're like, oh, maybe that's just an outlier. The next sale after that was around like 3,700. And then one later jumped up to like 3,800. And so I had a couple of sales that are around that price. I'm like, that just seems ridiculous, especially since this book was selling for, like, pre-comic boom. This book was selling for in the right around the 900s to 1,000. If you went like 6 months before, it was probably selling right what it is now. Probably like, well, this is a kind of low sale, but like probably around the 700 mark. But can you imagine that? You buy a book for like $700, and that's like peak of the market. And then 6 months later, it's now selling for 1,000. Like, oh, awesome. And then 6 months after that, it's selling for 4,200. Yeah, way too much for this book. I think a lot of people had money that weren't really into comic books and are just buying, not realizing what the price of things actually were to warrant this, because it wasn't just like one sale. It wasn't just like, oh, this book's selling for 1,000, 4,200, next book's like 1,500. It wasn't like that. It was like 4,200 all. Literally, it was like $1,000, 4,200. It was like 900, 950, 900, 1,000, 1,050, 4,200, and then it's like, oh, okay, maybe that's an outlier. Nope, 37, 38, and then just boom, 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 all the way downward. Now it's selling for 530. So kind of crazy. Where is it going from here? It should stabilize around here. That's what I think. I think it's going to jump around the $500 to the $750 mark for a 9.8. Somewhere around there. Obviously, it's going to be big range. I don't see it falling much further than $500. Like, obviously, you might have a sale for like $475 or something like that. But on average, it's going to probably be around the $500 to $750 mark. Next, we got Nova #1. In a 9.8, one recently sold for $955. In January, is averaging $972, so it's only down 2%. In 2023, averaged 1416. That's down 33%, and it's peaked at 3,000. And that is down 68%. It's pretty much back to where it was pre-comic boom. But if I look at the graph, right, I don't see it. I still see it sloping. I don't see it leveling off. So my first reaction for this book is, even though it's back to where it was in like 2019-ish, my first reaction is this book will probably drop more. So I'm probably guessing, just based off of like numbers and past and all that kind of stuff, that this book will probably settle around, in the next like 6 months to a year, it would probably be selling for like $750 to $800. And I think that's probably where it will stop. Like the furthest it will go down. So, all right, next we got is Moonight #1. A 9.8 recently sold for $252. And in January, it was selling for $313. That's down 19%. In 2023, it was averaging $345. That's down 27%. At its peak, it was selling for $1350. That's down 81%. So this one, surprisingly, is not as straight up as the other ones. It kind of like has this nice curve and comes back right down. It's still believe it or not, is still selling for higher than it was pre-comic book boom. So it's almost there. It's getting close there. My guess is it's kind of hitting its like here's like its what is it called? Resistance line, if like in stocks and things like that. So it's kind of like jumping on this resistance line, but the resistance line is kind of curved down a little bit. So it's kind of like going like this, but slowly, ever so slowly going down. My guess is 200 will be its bottom, around the 200 mark. You know, it might be selling for like 190 or something like that. For a 9.8, 200 is going to be its bottom mark. So if you're looking to pick one up, I would hold off until it might be 6 months to a year, and it might hit around the $200 mark. So if you can find something around there, I think that will be a good buy for that. All right, next is we got Nintendo Power number 1. Yeah, this one's crazy. A 9.0 currently sold for $19.26. In January is averaging $3,300. It's down 41%. And in 2023 is averaging $39.10. That's down 51%. At its peak, a 9.0, not even 9.8. There are 9.8s and 9.6s. At its peak, 11,300. That's down 83%. That is crazy. There's 9.8s, 9.6s, all that kind of stuff. You'd think for that, a 9.0 sold for 11,300. That is insane. That is ridiculous. Now, this book doesn't sell that often. And if you look, there's a one sale for 11,300. So you're like, oh, okay. Is it an outlier? Well, obviously it's an outlier. But there's one for like $9,000 shortly after. So it wasn't just like astronomical one and then that's it. Like, no, there's no more for $9,000. That's just way too much, man. It's just, and that was in 2022. It's just crazy to think like someone's going to throw $11,000 like on a Nintendo Power, and I'm like trying to think. This is not even 9.8. It's not like, oh, this is the highest grade. Someone thought it was like, oh, the single highest grade or something like that, so they threw something ridiculous at it. I'm like trying to get in the mind of someone who's going to for a 9.0. So it wasn't. There was other grades selling. I'm trying to get in the mind of someone who was going to spend $11,000 on a Nintendo Power number 1. It has to be someone that had crypto money. That's the only thing that makes sense to me. I just can't. Or someone, I'm like trying to think who would have $11,000 to blow on a Nintendo Power number 1 in a 9.0. I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of that person, because Nintendo Power 1 is a very obscure. It's a magazine, but it's very obscure. So it's not really. It has to be someone that like really likes Nintendo and loves that nostalgia stuff. So the person would have to be anywhere from like 30 to maybe 45, like somewhere in there. That's maybe 50 at the most, but 30 to 50, that age range. That's the only person that would probably, even 30 seems a little bit young, but let's say 30 to 50. So that age range is like, okay, who would have had a lot of money in 2021? So it would have to be someone who maybe, because during this time you got funding just thrown everywhere for every single business. If you just had a business idea, you got millions of dollars. So it had to be someone who maybe had a business and they got funding and then they took some of that money and bought this. It would probably be someone who was into crypto or NFTs at the time and sold a few and had a bunch of money. Or, you know, maybe they had Pokemon cards and they sold a bunch of their Pokemon cards. So they had all this money at something like that. I don't think it'd be a regular person who just sold their house, because houses have gone up since then. So, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Ridiculous. All right, last on the list is Marvel feature number 1. And a 9.4 recently sold for $693. And January is averaging $720. That's down 4%. In all of 2023, averaged $1175. That's down 41%. And its peak was $23.95. That's down 71%. If you look at that graph, that's a very odd graph. It's just kind of slowly going up over time. Has a little jump in like 2019, 2020. And then 2021, it just shoots up to the moon. And it was one sale. And then shoots all the way back down. It right now, that 693 is below what it was pre-comic boom. So, and in January, it's on for 720. I think, just judging by other grade ranges that I've seen of this book, I would imagine that this is kind of, I could see this for a 9.4, I could see this dropping a little lower, but I imagine this is kind of where it's going to bottom out at. I bet you the next sale of this book will be the lowest it could possibly be is like 600 for the next year. So for the next year, I would imagine the lowest that this book will probably sell is like 600, and I think that's going to be its resistance line. And I could see, all of a sudden this book coming in auction or someone selling one for probably like 750 for a 9.4. So that's kind of like my guess. I think most of its dropping has already happened. Poor person, 9.4, 2,400 gone. Have a great day.